Well, hello friends. It is such a joy to just join you again today for another stewardship conversation. I trust that these have been quite meaningful to you, and I anticipate meeting with you week after week. Well, we have been on a path as to how we can have dollars and cents. That's common sense in this period of COVID-19. One of the things we discovered previously is that we should, as stewards, stay far away from the get-rich-quick schemes that are being advanced today. And one that is so very attractive and has pulled many Christians into its path is this whole idea of prosperity gospel. A television evangelist would tell you, just sow a seed and plant some money into the church or into some religious activity, and God will radically change your financial standing. Well, today I want to look at another popular get-rich-quick scheme, and it is the get-rich-quick scheme of gambling. Well, gambling is quite popular in terms of terminology. Some of us are more familiar by the term betting. The dictionary says it is wagering of money or something of value on an event with an uncertain outcome. And so the primary intent of gambling is to win money or material goods. When I looked at the research in gambling, I recognized that it is pretty broad and plentiful out there, and many countries have people practicing gambling just as a recreational activity. And so some people will gamble across a table. Then they have the more formal as casino gambling, lottery that is known here, bingo, gaming machine, betting on horse racing, playing poker, and blackjack. The list goes on in terms of the form of gamblings. So the question is, why do people gamble? Many people gamble, one, because of financial need, economic reasons. They can barely make ends meet. And so gambling to them represents that opportunity to acquire material comfort, that extra cash that will position them for success. So notice the first category of gambler can be the person who gambles for economic reason. And then the second one are those who just gamble for the fun of it. They are called social gamblers. And they represent the people who will go down to Las Vegas or Atlantic City. They will go on a vacation with a certain amount of money. And once the money is spent, they will pack up and they will return home. Often these people are pretty conservative people. They would even live on a budget, as we have previously advised every sensible steward to do. And so the third category of gambler would be what is designated the compulsive gambler. To the compulsive gambler, gambling is what alcohol is to the alcoholic. But the gambling wrecks them, it wrecks their families and their careers. And so the compulsive gambler will lie, will steal, will cheat, will use virtually everybody around them to support their gambling habit. Interestingly, even professionals are identified among those who suffer from compulsive gambling. There is a term, the term problem gambling, which is closely associated to the whole idea of compulsive gambling. The same thing happens with the person who is addicted to gambling. They disrupt their personal family space and family goals, their own vacation or vocational goals. And so what are the signs of problem gambling? One, they will become very argumentative and defensive about their gambling behavior. Two, they will have unexplained long periods of absences. Three, they would even lie to their loved ones about their gambling behavior. Four, they will go without basic needs in order to support their gambling habits. Five, they will have an incessant gambling, borrowing from people to support their gambling habits. So when you look at these types of gamblers, you may say, well, they are different. But in reality, all gamblers have one basic problem, and that's the problem of materialism. That's the truth. They have an excessive passion for material and materialism. So let's evaluate gambling scripturally. But in order for us to evaluate gambling scripturally, we must first determine what gambling is. So the big question is gambling labor? If it is labor, then it is scriptural. The Bible says in Proverbs 14:23, in all labor there is profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. Interesting. Ephesians 4 verse 28 says, anyone who has been stealing must steal no longer, but must work. Do something useful with your own hands, that they may have something to share with those in need. Proverbs 12:11, the wise man says, those who work their land will have abundant food, but those who chase fantasies will have no sense. So while gambling may be labor for those who work in the gambling pits, for the gamblers, it is a get-rich scheme. It is a scheme to escape labor. And the Bible advances the idea, work for your earning, work for your increase. So when you look closely at gambling, you would recognize that gambling is probably the most or the ultimate get-rich scheme that is available. Observe the following. One, participants are encouraged to risk money that they usually can't afford to lose, and that's true. Number two, they know little about what they are doing, at least most of them. Number three, they are forced to make hasty decisions. And number four, the whole idea is to operate on what is called the greater sucker theory. In other words, when you dump money into the slot machine, you believe that there was a greater sucker who risked his money, and then just before he quit, before he would have won, he did quit. And you come along and you are the lucky one. So here is the big question. Is gambling sin? Well, I know we live in a period of pluralism. To be educated and smart, they say you have to just respect everybody's behavior and practice. Well, the truth is we are Christians too. And so the Bible is still our rule for faith and practice. All of the research suggests that gambling breeds and promotes selfishness and greed and covetousness. Is gambling a sin? That's a question you will need to ask. The research shows that it impinges upon the mind negatively. It erodes people's finances and even causes problems with careers. And so the Bible says that we should walk and follow the simple guidelines that God has outlined for us. Labor is what the Bible advances for legitimate, positive increase. So I want to say to you, friends, regardless to how socially acceptable this whole practice of gambling has become, gambling is still preying upon the weakness of others. And as Christian stewards, we are invited to live by a higher standard, a standard that is elevated above the world's standard. Romans 12:2 says, "Be not conformed to the age." It means the current beliefs and practices, the philosophies of the time. You know, the month of March is problem gambling month. Why? Because over 5 million Americans meet the criteria of problem gambling. Over 5 million Americans are addicted to gambling. They focus more on gambling and ignore other responsibilities. And in the process, their loved ones are hurt. In the process, they are losing money. In the process, they are putting their jobs at risk. And many people today want to quit, but they are addicted. They try and they are anxious. They are unhappy. I want to suggest today that if you know anyone who needs help with gambling problem, please feel free to call this 1-800 number. It is 1-800-522-4700. 1-800-522-4700. God wants you to prosper. May God bless you.